Welcome back, everybody, to the return of Split Decision. It's been a while. As I said before on other episodes of List Sports Online, we kind of took a break with COVID and just a lot of stuff going on personally with us. But we're back, and we're back with UFC 257. We have Poirier versus McGregor. Again, what a better episode to come back on. Pat, I've missed you. What's up, dude? Let's talk about some fights. All right, so first up, we got the undercard. We got Julianna Peña versus Sara McMann. Both are wrestlers, both working towards a title.
Pat? Yeah, it's just I thought it was worth mentioning. You know, they're two women. It's an interesting matchup to me. You know, both women were wrestlers before they were fighters. So Sara McMann was an Olympic level wrestler, and Julianna Peña came in as an Ultimate Fighter winner, and so they're both they're two of the bigger names in the division. You know, they've been around for a little while, so they're both kind of trying to get that title shot and then vying with a lot of up and comers and things. But I think it's a really interesting matchup, and I think that both women have the potential to go on and challenge for the title. You know, I won't say that they have the potential to beat Shevchenko, who is, you know, one of the most dominant forces in MMA, you know, especially considering that Sara McMann's already, or I think Julianna Peña has already lost to Shevchenko once before. But, you know, it does look good for Julianna Peña when your only losses in recent times are to people who would go on to hold titles in various divisions. So, you know, her only two recent losses are Shevchenko and Germaine de Randamie. So that looks pretty good. And Sara McMann got a title shot earlier on in her UFC career against Ronda Rousey. So there's no saying she couldn't do it again.
Yeah, both could definitely be back in that title picture. And moving on, we have Marina Rodriguez versus Amanda Ribas. Ribas on a winning streak right now and working her way towards a title shot with a win over PVZ and Mackenzie Demme.
PVZ, Paige Van Zandt, who is one of the bigger names in the division, not one of the you know, top tier fighters at any point, but worth mentioning just because a lot of people know her. And Mackenzie Dern is a world-class jiu-jitsu fighter, and, you know, holding a win over a big name like Paige Van Zandt or Mackenzie Dern is always going to get you a little more attention. I think Ribas is on a win streak, and, you know, she's again is one of those up-and-comers, and she's working her way towards that top tier of fighters in the division. And Rodriguez has been trying to you know, gain some footing at that top tier. She's had a couple losses to bigger names in the division, so it's kind of a step up in competition for Ribas, and a chance for Rodriguez to show that she really belongs at that top level, and that the up and comers aren't just here to push her down and take her out of that title consideration.
Next up, we have Jessica Eye versus Joanne Calderwood. Two big names in the division fighting at the top tier, trying to trade wins and losses. Lately, trying to earn a title shot.
Yeah, we saw JoJo Calderwood, who's one of my favorites, partly because she's Scottish, and I just, you know, soft spot for any of those Celtic people over there. But they're two super talented women who have, you know, either fought for titles before or fought in number one contender fights before. And, you know, as we see with most people, it's hard to consistently win at that top level of competition. But those women have been at the top level of competition, and neither one of them are ever really far away from a title shot unless they have multiple losses in a row, which neither of them does. They've both been trading wins and losses in their past few fights, but I think that they're both big enough names and good enough talents that, you know, given one or two wins, will definitely be in that discussion to fight for the title. And you know, it's a tough division. You know, Shevchenko is no joke. She's one of the best fighters in the UFC, and so it's a hard path to win that title. But both women are on it, and they're closer to the title shot than a lot of the other women in the division.
So in the co-main and the main events, we sort of have this little mini tournament going on to see who will either fight, you know, for Khabib's title in his return, or who fights for the title when Khabib vacates the title. First up, we have Dan Hooker versus Michael Chandler. Now, Hooker's a top-tier UFC lightweight, And you have Michael Chandler, who is one of the best fighters outside of UFC, a former 3-time Bellator Lightweight Champion. Michael Chandler, right out the gates, trying to make a name for himself. I mean, you're already one of the best of the best outside the UFC, and here you are. What are your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, Michael Chandler came in, and you always know that when a champ from a reputable organization outside of the UFC, specifically we're talking Bellator and maybe World Series of Fighting, they're gonna get kind of thrown to the wolves. It's when you're as high level as of a guy as Michael Chandler is, you're not gonna come into the UFC and get a tune-up fight. I think he came in and was at Fight Island and made weight just to be an alternate for what was it, Khabib versus Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
And so, his hope was to for one of those guys to fall out and get a title shot. But obviously it didn't pan out that way. But tossing him into this kind of pseudo tournament on this night it's still a baptism of fire, And Dan Hooker, I think for Chandler is a tough task. He's a bigger dude. He has a much longer reach. He's a fantastic striker. And Chandler is a very, very well-rounded fighter. He has skills in every department. He's had some legendary wars with some former UFC champs. His fights with Eddie Alvarez, where they traded wins and losses, are wild. But to fight a striker at the level of Dan Hooker, Dan Hooker trains out of the same camp as Israel Adesanya in New Zealand down there.
Great company.
Yeah, we know those guys are fantastic, and not only they're fantastic, like their skills are great, but they're very cerebral fighters. Their game planning is always on point. They always have specific strategies to try to beat these dudes. They have 2 champs fighting out of that gym right now in Israel Adesanya and Alexander Volkanovski at featherweight, and they're going for their third. And Dan Hooker is, he's a hell of a fighter. So I think it's a question of can Dan Hooker keep the fight at distance and keep Chandler off of him and avoid takedowns? Mm-hmm. If Chandler is able to get past Dan Hooker's long range and get in and make it more of a grappling match or a dirtier fight, then I think he stands a much better chance to pull off the victory. But like I said, he's got a lot of tools that Dan Hooker has at his disposal to get past to get to that point.
Yeah. Again, when you go back to Michael Chandler just coming from another program, like UFC is the top of the top. And I'm interested to see what he can do. Again, when you think about he's a well-proven fighter, top 10 in the world. But this is an opportunity, I think, for him. And I hope he seizes it because, again, the chance to go on to take Poirier or McGregor on for a title possibly if, Khabib Khabib vacates it is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for Michael Chandler. He the first thing he did when he got brought into the UFC was showed up for Khabib's last fight, or maybe it wasn't Khabib's last fight. It was for the lightweight title fight between Gaethje and Khabib. Yeah, so Khabib's last fight, and he made weight for the fight so that he could be there as an alternate in case anybody got injured, and so he could jump straight into a title fight. Obviously, that didn't happen, but he was there. He was ready for it, and being a guy who comes in from another organization as a champ at all, let alone a multiple-time champ who is ranked by most journalists and stuff out, regardless of organization, they're just looking at the weight classes for MMA. He's consistently ranked in that top 10. Whereas most of the guys you'll see on there are going to be UFC fighters in almost every division. Michael Chandler has still been up there for quite a long time and been ranked really highly. So he's not going to get an easy way into the company, and he doesn't want it either. He's looking for the best fights and the hardest fights that'll get him to that title shot. He wants to become a UFC champ. And this is a good way to do it. He's part of this kind of pseudo tournament that they got going on. And Dan Hooker is really, really talented guy, and it's a tall order. But Khabib has said that he'll come back for the right fight or, you know, the right performance, essentially. So if he goes out there and puts on a clinic against a guy as talented as Dan Hooker and looks phenomenal, there's the possibility Khabib decides to come back and just fight Chandler. There's also the possibility that Khabib doesn't want to fight, vacates the title, and then it's, in my mind, between, you know, they can make any fight out of three different, you know, with three different guys. They can make a fight with the winner of Dan Hooker and Chandler, the winner of Poirier and McGregor, and Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira is fantastic, so you can't discount him in the title picture. But this night certainly has a ton of visibility on it and some of the bigger names. So, you know, it's his easiest and best way to the title. Not easiest, but best.
It's a way. There's a way.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, the path is there, and the path could, like you said, lead through one of the winners of our next main event, Dustin Poirier or Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor making his, you know, return back to the UFC. It's a rematch of a 2014 fight where McGregor won by a KO in the first round. Poirier, former interim champion, lost to Khabib in a unifying bout. Excellent striker. I mean, if you're the most casual UFC fighting, not even just UFC fighting, combat sports, you know the name McGregor. Again, when you told me about this card, I was like, hell yeah, like it's on. Like this right here, he's as close to probably the biggest superstar, I think, in the UFC or in the fighting world in general, honestly. Very good matchman to return to. Possible title shot out of this one.
Yeah, it's McGregor's one of those rare people who transcends the sport. You know, he's not only the biggest UFC fighter of all time,
hands down,
the biggest MMA fighter of all time. Went over into the boxing world and fought Mayweather, which just made him even bigger. He has, you know, partnerships with high-end suit companies. He owns a whiskey brand. He owns a workout routine company. All sorts of stuff. The man's doing everything he can to make as much money as he can and be as big as he can, as popular as he can. It's working, you know. So you're right. This is it's more than just MMA fans who tune in for a Conor McGregor fight. And it's more than just MMA fans who got their eyes on the winner of that fight and what happens. You know, even if they're tuning in to watch Conor McGregor, if Dustin Poirier wins and goes on to a title shot, there's a certain amount of people who are going to see this fight, be that impressed, and then want to tune in for a Poirier fight that they might not have tuned in for had he not fought McGregor.
Yeah.
So huge upside to any McGregor fight, and a huge upside to being on a McGregor card. You know, every single fighter on this main card is getting a huge jump in exposure just due to the fact that McGregor's on the card. His name sells more fights than the UFC name does. Yeah. To be honest, you know, it's pretty.
You're not wrong. McGregor puts asses in seats, and we can't get asses in seats because of COVID, but we can get eyes on TV. And there's going to be a lot of pay-per-view orders done this weekend just to see if McGregor can still do it. I mean, I don't think there's a question in my mind whether he can do it. I wholeheartly think he's still got what it takes. But Poirier's no slouch. I mean, this guy's a former interim champion. You just don't get that by sucking. No, he's a fighter. He's hardcore. Like, it's going to be. I'm interested in this fight. Again, like I said, it's a rematch from 2014. But yeah, we're going to see what's changed in 7 years.
Yeah, and I think it's both fighters have grown a ton. And like you said, Poirier's. Everybody knows McGregor, knows his record. He's a former two-weight class champ, the only person to hold two belts consecutively in two different weight classes. Wins over, Jose Aldo, Eddie Alvarez, Nate Diaz, huge names. He fought Khabib for the title, lost in the fourth round, which is further than most people get with Khabib. But Poirier's got a hell of a resume as well, man. He beat Justin Gaethje, the most recent interim champ, who just lost to Khabib, who's also got to be in the talk for a title shot. He has 2 wins over Max Holloway. He's probably the best featherweight on the planet right now. You know, Alex Volkanovski has something to say about that, but after Max Holloway's performance last weekend, it's hard to deny that.
Yeah.
You know, Poirier's got a hell of a resume, and he's a hell of a fighter. It's both guys have improved, but they haven't like specifically changed their styles as much. You know, Poirier, I think, is Poirier. They're both better in this weight class than they were at featherweight. They were both draining themselves to get down to featherweight, and they both end up moving up to lightweight. So both guys pack more of a punch than they used to.
Yeah.
Which, if you look at history, doesn't spell the greatest story for Dustin Poirier.
No.
You know, if McGregor hits harder now than he did then, we'll see. So, yeah, but Poirier is a fantastic fighter. His boxing has gotten better. He's not as aggressive as he used to be. He's not coming into this fight emotional and worked up and charging forward, looking for the knockout. His footwork is much better. His takedowns are much better. He's timing his takedowns better. He's doing more variation on takedowns. He's actually, you know, if you look at his fight with Justin Gaethje, he put off a takedown that I think could very well work on Conor McGregor. You know, it's hard to get Conor McGregor down against the cage, or if you're shooting a double leg or something. But Poirier is, you know, new folds in his game where he's now waiting for punches to come and just level changing under punches and going for trips and things and body locks. And, you know, so it's not, you know, when you look at McGregor's career, he's won every single first round that he hasn't been taken down and smothered for the majority of the round. The only 2 people to beat McGregor in the first round are Chad Mendes and Khabib Nurmagomedov. Both fantastic wrestlers. So Poirier, being a much smarter fighter than he used to be, and his camp is great, so he might come out and just decide to level change on McGregor, get that takedown, hold him down, try to land some ground and pound. He's got a fantastic submission game. He might just go in and try to submit Conor. You know, it's one of the – we've seen him lose multiple times in the UFC via rear naked choke. So, you know, if you're Poirier, who has multiple submissions on his on his resume, that's not a bad option, especially looking at, said, McGregor's history, where the only first rounds he's lost, where he hasn't either won the striking match or knocked the dude out in that round, were against wrestlers, people who came in and took him down and were able to control him. So it's a good way to go. Now, does Dustin Poirier have the skills to stand on the feet with Conor McGregor? Absolutely. He's a fantastic boxer. Yeah. He's one of the best boxers in the division. But McGregor has done nothing but train boxing for the past few years. You know, so McGregor's stand-up, you have to assume it's gotten better. The last time we saw him come out, we didn't see him do much boxing because he went out there and he shouldered Donald Cerrone in the head and kicked him and all sorts of stuff and put him out of there with, you know, a more varied striking game than just boxing. But since he spent so much of his time boxing, we have to assume he's going to look better there.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and he already had the power. So we don't know exactly what McGregor's stand-up is going to look like, what his approach is going to look like, but, you know, he's always been a fantastic boxer. So to me, I think most likely, I think if this plays out as a boxing match, or, you know, at least a striking match, is going to be the most fun.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking for some fists to fly. I want to see a fight. I want to see a good stand-up fight. Honestly, I think that's going to be the best show out of the 2 of them as well. Yep,
and I think that will end up happening for the most part, but it's a question of each guy's strategy. You know, I've heard Poirier say things about seeing McGregor falter on the feet when he's backing up, like in his Nate Diaz fight and things like that. And so Poirier might come in and try to put the pressure on him, but McGregor's the best counterpuncher in the game. You know, look at his 13-second win over Jose Aldo. He slipped one punch and landed one punch. Fight over. You know, so if that's Poirier's game plan, it could be a short night for him. But if he's successful with it and is able to tire McGregor out a bit, and, you know, keep him fighting off his back foot, his power starts to fade. And so after that, first couple of rounds, you don't have to worry about that big shot as much. Poirier can take over for sure, especially if he's able to take McGregor down and keep him guessing and throw him off his game plan a little bit and wear on his cardio. It's a very winnable fight for Poirier. I think if he survives that, if he gets past that first round and maybe that second round, I think we see Poirier probably start to take over. We've seen McGregor's cardio fade a little bit in the past. He says it's something he's worked on, and you believe him, but we still haven't seen the proof.
Yeah, the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, and almost fortunately for him, we don't see that because he typically doesn't make it that far.
Yeah.
Nobody tends to make it that far with McGregor. He tends to win before that if he's going to win. And so, if he's one of those dudes, so if you weather that first 5 minutes of, the storm, your chances just start going up and up and up. And Poirier is a guy that we've seen go 5 rounds countless times. He rarely gets tired. He keeps his power relatively late into a fight. He has the tools to mix it up. So who knows? I hate to say, it's cut and dry of if it goes past the second round, Poirier is going to win, because that's not necessarily true. McGregor has decision wins on his record. But I think if it goes past that first and second round, it's looking better and better for Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
So we'll
see.
Yeah.
I mean, it's anybody's fight, honestly. Personally, if I had to put money on it, I'm going with McGregor. I don't think that's much of a secret here. If I got to put money, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's going to be a first-round knockout, in my opinion. I think the boxing has evolved enough that I think it's going to – he's going to lay one on him. It's just going to catch him, and boom, it's done. Yeah,
well, I mean, when you're outboxing dudes like Paulie Malignaggi, you can't imagine he's going to come in MMA and have a hard time with many of the MMA fighters. And, he's like – Poirier has some power. We saw him overwhelm Holloway with landing heavier shots, and he has some knockouts on his record. But as Firas Zahabi, George St. Pierre's coach, says, Conor just has the kiss of death in that left hand. It's that we've seen a lot of guys eat that left hand, and very few of them have stayed standing afterwards.
Yeah. But we will see this weekend. Again, you can catch these fights on pay-per-view. Again, LitTube's back. Split Decision's back. We will be covering more fights. It's coming soon. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more. Take care. All right.